Instead of playing Expedition 33, I decided to watch a Let's Play. And what am I greeted with? A poorly written, poorly animated mess that is just mogged by far superior JRPGs like Yeast 10 and Dragon Quest 3. This game is a complete joke, and it really should be treated like a joke, especially after the Game Awards went to such lengths to try and pretend that this game was somehow this huge monumental achievement in video games, when in actuality, it's not relevant. It never will be relevant. Nobody cares about it. And honestly, it's already been forgotten about. Just like Astrobot before it, this game is just going to get mogged by the far superior Nintendo games. Like, it's happened before, it'll happen again, and this is just the newest iteration of it, the newest update, the newest patch to try and keep the narrative spinning. And it is remarkable, watching this show and like seeing people seethe about Nintendo, seeing people like Jeff Keighley do everything he possibly can not to mention Nintendo or the Switch 2 at this event. Like the highlight of the Game Awards was Metroid Prime 4's commercial. That game looks and plays better than anything they showed off tonight. And I kind of realized, watching this Let's Play of Expedition 33, like, it doesn't look as good as Prime 4. Like, Prime 4 is stunning with its art direction, with its stage design, with its modeling, like character designs. Like, it's phenomenal. And meanwhile, Expedition 33 looks like one of those cheap budget indie, just like bullshit video games. It is remarkable at just how badly something like Metroid Prime 4 can stop Expedition 33 in every single way, shape, and form and not even get nominated, not even get acknowledged. That is unbelievably cringe. And I do think that is the big major takeaway from this Game Awards show, is that they went full stop in trying to downplay Nintendo's amazing year. They never talked about Donkey Kong Bonanza. They never talked about, Kirby Air Riders or Mario Kart World or like Metroid Prime 4 or like any one of these amazing Nintendo games. Like, they instead decided to turn it into the Expedition 33 show. And they absolutely have to do this, because this is what people don't understand, is that Expedition 33 did not sweep this year. Absolutely not, because this is something that could not possibly compete when it came to like best narrative. It's not something that could compete with best strategy game. It's not something that could compete in like, every other genre. Like, the issue with this is that Expedition 33 had to win every single award it was nominated for to create the illusion that this was the best game that came out this year by far. And it simply is not true, never will be true, and is just a gaslighting campaign, like a symptom of being an industry plant. There's a reason nobody really talks about this game outside of this Twitter online conspiracy that like it's the game of the year. That they've been saying that since it came out. Okay. That's been part of the grift. It's always been part of the grift. It's always been the narrative. You can find like YouTube videos from like the Let's Play I watched declared this like to be the game of the year like 7 months ago. Like it's like it's ridiculous. Like, I was playing games up until the end of the year, long after the Game Awards closed their submissions. People are telling me that like, well, Kirby Air Riders and Metroid Prime 4 couldn't be nominated because they came out too late, and I'm just like, but they're way better than everything else that was nominated. Like that's just the reality of what we're seeing now, is that we're straight up seeing the best Nintendo games get downplayed and ignored, and they'll do any like crazy coping and seething to try and avoid talking about them. And like when you have something like Mario Kart World, which was a huge success, like it straight up got booed at this show. They straight up said that, like, you know what, we're gonna rally behind Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, we're gonna cheer for it, we're gonna try and push this narrative, and like Like, of course, like Mario Kart World won the award, okay, because it's the better game. Like, nobody cares about Sonic Racing Crossworlds. But what I found interesting was like looking at the crowd and like clearly seeing because of the lighting that there is no actual cheering or booing. It's entirely just like the stage thing. So Jeff is legit using a soundboard to create the illusion that people are cheering or booing at certain things, and like he made the conscious decision to have people boo Mario Kart World and cheer for Sonic Racing Cross Worlds to try and create this narrative that that um that Sonic Racing Cross Worlds was more popular. And that's obviously not true. Like nobody thinks that. I have seen nobody but the most hardcore Sonic fanboys on Twitter like even like know that Sonic Racing Cross Worlds exists. Okay, it is remarkable how like Jeff Keighley is doing everything he possibly can to undermine Nintendo this year, and it really does need to get called out and addressed. And I can't repeat this enough, but the Game Awards has no credibility. Okay, like I don't care if Donkey Kong Bonanza and Mario Kart World won awards. Like that wasn't enough. Okay, they need to be acknowledging Nintendo as the best in the industry every year, and they just don't. Like they just refuse to do it, and they really need to be called out for this. And they keep propping up all these industry plants that nobody cares about. I don't want to hear about that, like I don't want to hear about that voice actress ever again. I don't want to hear about Expedition 33 ever again. I don't want to hear about like any of this slop ever again. It is just a complete nightmare to see like all these obviously fake, like performative, just kind of like nonsense to try and gaslight people into thinking that like non-Nintendo gaming is in a better place than ever. It's not. Like the simple fact of the matter is the real reason why so many indie games were nominated for Game of the Year was because they desperately needed to pad it with games that weren't from Nintendo. Okay, like because nothing else came out this year. Like they had to do this thing where they had to sit there and they had to tell you that like these were the best games that came out this year, and they have to shove Expedition 33 and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 at you. Like they even lied and tried to tell you that Expedition 33 was an indie game when in actuality they do have a publisher and they did receive money from the French government. So like again, we really do need to like clarify what the term independent actually means, because like if you have like funding from like investors and the like you're not independent. Like that's not how this works. So again, this is something that we as gamers really need to talk about more, is just how corrupt and performative this show actually is. Like the industry shill show, I would say this was their attempt at trying to normalize all of these narratives that have been like pushed in the industry for the past year. Downplaying Mario Kart World, ignoring Bonanza, straight up not talking about Metroid Prime 4, having this really short, shitty like Mario Galaxy trailer, like it was really, really weird to see how they treated Nintendo at this showcase during this year where they put out the best-selling console of all time. Okay. Like the Switch 2 has been a massive success, and yet you would not know it by watching this award show. In fact, you're seeing a lot of people on Twitter try and say that, like, oh, third parties are ignoring Nintendo. And then you have like Capcom, you know, showing off two of their biggest games like coming to Switch 2. Like the companies that don't support Nintendo are going to be left in the dust. Like that's the simple reality of it. Capcom I think is has learned their lesson after trying to go for PC and realizing just how fake the audience is for it and how they don't come out for games. Yeah, like we're getting like Switch 2 ports of Pragmata and Resident Evil Requiem. And like that is a very good demonstration of where I think we're going, is that like all these major Japanese companies like are kneeling and are putting to Nintendo. all that bluster, all that nonsense about how Expedition 33 swept the Game Awards, all this coping about how Nintendo wasn't at the show, all this talk about how all these announcements were coming to Switch 2, it's not going to amount to anything when Mario Kart World is the best-selling game this generation. Right? This was the best they could possibly come up with. This is the best they could do to downplay Nintendo Switch 2, was try and give a bunch of awards to Expedition 33 when the most critically acclaimed games this year are Nintendo exclusives. This is the unbelievably cringe aspect of the Game Awards, is that they are trying to gaslight people into thinking the games are somewhere where they're not. Okay. Like, I'm seeing a lot of people talking about how this is their favorite RPG of all time. Well, I can't wait for you to play your second. This is Harmon Smith, and I am signing off.